Hey guys, and welcome in to another video presentation on how to use certain things in Lightroom. This episode, I want to jump right into it. I want to go over one of the questions I have most in my photography classes and workshops, and that is, what is that little graph thing up in the corner of my screen? And what a lot of people are referring to is the histogram. What you need to understand about the histogram is it represents the amount of light or lack thereof in a photograph. So in front of you, I have my photograph. You can find it on my website on the main page, and as you go through, you can actually start to see where light is present and where it's not in the photograph using the histogram. So once we start to understand where light is, we can look at a histogram after we take a photograph and see, okay, where do I want to add light and where do I want to take light away? Or where do I want to increase the shadowing or decrease the shadowing? In this one specifically, the histogram is good. What you don't want on a histogram is right here. You don't want any lines touching the very edge of either side of the histogram. If you have any part of the graph touching the right side of the histogram, that part of the photograph is going to be overexposed. And I'll show you how that works in just a second. And vice versa on this side. If any part of the graph is touching this line, that part of the photograph is going to be underexposed or completely black. So what we want to do here is kind of play around with this, and I can work with this and then take all the changes we made away, because this is a finished product of a photograph. So what we want to do is we can actually click on the histogram. And this part right here is going to be representing the shadows of this photograph. So we can bring them down, and you'll start to see in the photograph how it might affect this part of the shadowing in the photograph. And you also see the bar right down here. It's going to move along with however we pull the histogram in the shadows. You'll see that start to move. So take that away, hit Command Z on a Mac, and right here is one of the parts of the histogram that I use most. This is the exposure section of the histogram. We can do the exact same thing. We can pull it and to the right to increase the amount of light in the photograph, or pull it to the left and decrease the amount of light in the photograph. So Command Z and move back to normal. So what I want to show you now is when it is completely black and touching the left side of the histogram, or completely overexposed and just white. No texture or anything will be represented when it's all the way touching the right side of the histogram. So a neat trick is to, once you're in Develop in Lightroom, is you hit the J key, and you'll notice these little arrows will the brackets on these arrows will light up, and what that does is shows you on this arrow will show you complete black, and this arrow will show you complete white. So that's what you want to stay away of, and that's a great trick when you're editing to know how much light is going to show up if you haven't calibrated your screen to certain colors. So once the J key is activated, I'm actually going to come down here and pull the exposure, and you'll see it up in the histogram. So once we get it all the way down, you're going to see these little blue sections start to show up, and that's the part that's actually touching the left side of the histogram. So that is what you do not want. In these parts, you're going to see absolutely no detail in the photograph, and vice versa. If we pull it and bring it all the way up, you can still see some detail down here, but of course in the waterfall itself, that is just completely white. You're going to see no detail at all. So you really want to stay away from that. Control Z. And once you bring it back up, all right, we're back to normal, and you can see now that everything, I'm still going to have some shadows, and that's mainly right through here. Right under the rocks is where you're going to see a lot of the shadowing. Back up in the top left section, and then this bright hump right here, that's the whites, and that's right here, the actual waterfall. That's where you're going to see a lot of the whites in this particular photograph. But knowing where the jumps in the histogram show up is really helpful to knowing, okay, where do I want to keep detail and where might I lose detail if I change exposure, if I change highlights, if I change whites. Any of that is going to affect how much detail shows up in that particular part of the photograph. So another tip that I like to use a lot when I'm out shooting is I shoot a lot of my landscapes and fine art in live view mode in my camera. So I use a Canon, so that's all I can go off right now. So once you are out in the field using your Canon, if you hit the button to activate your live view mode, where you can see the screen actually show where your camera is pointing, and hit display until you see the histogram pop up in the top right corner of the screen. No matter where you point the lens, the histogram will change. So that is a tremendous way to see how the histogram is going to look with your current settings using live mode at the same time. So that is a great tip that someone showed me, and I use it all the time in my photographs. I think it makes it so much easier to be able to picture what the photograph is going to look like when I bring it up in Lightroom, because really when we're out in the field and we take a photograph, all we have to go off is this tiny little thumbnail of a picture, and how much detail can you really see in that? You can't see very much at all. So using the histogram in that sense is just a tremendous way to understand how the end photograph is going to look, and what changes that you can start thinking about that you might want to make to a photograph once you bring it up in Lightroom and start the post-processing. So those are just some helpful tips using the histogram. I hope you can practice these and learn a lot about the histogram and how you can use it to make your photographs better. Remember, tips like these I go over all the time in my classes and workshops, and the video blogs are just a great way to share that with everyone. So start using that tip next time you're out in the field, and hey, maybe I might even see you out in the field with me. So thanks again.